Hello, we're back. So we're gonna talk about the rest of the functions here for the Make Noise Rene, and then we're gonna get into like the real rabbit hole, which is the sort of Z function. But first, it's kind of nice to know how things work here in terms of this CV input. We have two CV inputs, one for the X side and one for the Y side. So two channels of CV, and you can decide how these work. So right now what I have set up is I'm really just going, CV to 1 volt for octave in the oscillator, oscillator to filter, filter to VCA. I'm not using the gate right now because I found it's easier to demonstrate this stuff with no sequence running. Okay, so what we have here is just a note, and our first button in function CV is called add. So this interacts with the quantize page. So we're just going to add value, to the to this CV input, and it's going to stay within the quantize parameters, unless we turn quantization off, which you can. But even with nothing plugged in, I can use the attenuator here to demonstrate what's going to happen. So if we turn this up, and I just turn the CV knob to give it some extra voltage, you'll hear the note jump. And you can hear that it's skipping, it's following my quantization settings. So hopefully that makes sense. The way that interacts is, you can hook up something like anything really. You can hook up an LFO to this and it'll like do its thing. And it'll sort of constantly change what's happening in your sequence. Or you can do a dual sequencer thing here where I can have 16 steps running on the René and 8 steps running on the zero control, and then we're kind of getting different sequences basically. If you want to kind of hear the idea of that, I'm not exactly sure how this is going to come out, but we'll see what happens. I've got a maths running in an LFO mode, so I can just plug that in. And as the sequence runs, we should be able to change it. Okay, so if I add CV here on the attenuator, so you can hear that. It's kind of not a perfect situation. I think better use of this would be something like a woggle bug, where you can clock them together and they kind of are timing out a little better. But there's a place for total freedom. Okay, so we'll stop there. So second button is location, and it does what you think it does. It's going to move the sequence across these knobs as I add CV. Oops. Helps if you turn it on. There we go. And you can hear it's moving through the sequence as I turn the knob. Okay? Very straightforward. The next one is snake, and as you imagine, what it's going to do is change the snake settings. So if I clock it, and we put our gate back in. So I've got snake turned on. Let me go to the snake page. As I turn this knob, you will see that it's paging through all the different snake settings. So a potential use for this is, again, random voltage is pretty cool here because you can kind of like have unexpected variations in your melody. And this is sort of like what the René excels at, is these sort of unexpected variations. Last button is sample and hold. So this has to have two inputs to work the way you want it to work. So basically, it's going to take a sample and hold and add that voltage. So what you'll see is, add. You have a choice of add or sample and hold. You can't have both on at the same time, probably because of voltage problems. But what sample and hold does is it's going to take whatever's plugged into CV here and add it to the voltage that's coming out within the limited parameters that you've set here with quantize. Now, the other thing it needs is a rising edge at the mod input. So you can't just plug something into sample and hold here and expect something to happen, because it basically needs a trigger coming into the mod input. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, leave a comment and let me know. So let me try to demonstrate this. What we're going to do is I'm going to take an output from the 0 control, because then I can just touch. I'm going to plug it into the CV, and we'll turn the attenuator up a little bit. So here we are. There's our sequence running. If I push a button, absolutely nothing happens, right? And that is because we need a rising edge input into the X mod. So what I have is just a maths running off the screen with the attack set all the way down. So it gives it a sharp rising edge, and that's going to trigger the sample and hold. So nothing changes. I push a button on the next rising edge that comes out of the maths, and it moves. So So hopefully that demonstration makes sense. If you want to use sample and hold, you have to have a rising edge type of input into the X mod, or the Y mod, depending on which channel you're using here. Okay, so hope that makes sense. We're going to get into the Z stuff next, and that's really the rabbit's hole of this device. So I hope this gives you some understanding and some ideas to play around with, and we'll see you in the next video.